Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Pedal Talk, and this is going to be a fun time today. I've heard of a lot of long races in the United States, but up until a few years ago, I'd never heard about the Race Across America or read much about it. And the race has been going on for about 34 plus years, and it is a 3,000-mile odyssey across the United States. And it ranges from your low altitude during this thing is 170 feet below sea level up to 10,000 above. And it is like I said, a straight on race. There's three divisions: a single, trying to solo it yourself, a team edition that's run, and then a pairs division. And today we are absolutely astounded to have Lucas Clarke, who was on this year's Race Across America. We've got one half of the team here. And he raced with Colin Brady, his partner and childhood friend, and set a world's record. They were trying to beat 6 days, and they didn't quite do it, but they still broke a world record in their first try. So without any further ado, Lucas Clarke, welcome to the show.
Thanks, King. Thanks for having me on, Gary. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. So how did you, let me ask you this. It is the Race Across America. It's well-defined. Doesn't have to have a clever name. So where did this idea come up with you guys? How did this all start?
Yeah, so, Colin and I have been best friends since first grade. We grew up in Portland, Oregon, and went to the Franciscan Montessori Earth School together. And we've always been kind of like palling around. We've all, lots of people have longtime friends, but Colin and I have been kind of thick as thieves since that first grade. And we've always been very adventurous, even throughout adulthood. We've done ski mountaineering races together. We've scaled mountains. Colin is a 10-time world record holder in mountaineering and polar exploration and things like that. And I always really admired what he was doing in the adventure space. And I was like, I would love to do something like that with you. But it would probably need to be on a bike. And Colin's comment to me was like, well, I haven't been on a bike in 10 years. He used to be a pro triathlete. And, so my pitch to him was, well, let's do something kind of crazy and kind of fun. He's like, what did you have in mind? I was like, well, there's this thing called Race Across America, which is known as the world's toughest bike race. I was like, we could do that. And after diving into the research a little bit and kind of seeing how the pairs division or the two-person division works, we were like, sure, let's give it a go. We got to get Colin a bike. We got to get him training. But I know that he's one of the best athletes in the world. So once he starts training on something, he's going to absolutely excel at it. And, we just got an amazing coach, Gary Hand, to help us, on the coaching front and the building of our plan. And then we were kind of off to the races to figuring out all the logistics for Race Across America.
So you guys have known each other since, 5, 6 years old?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was 5. I was 6. Yep.
So what was let me ask you this. When did you start? When did the idea come out? When did you start with the idea? And then you raced this year, just a few months ago is when it finished, but when did the idea come about?
Yeah, the idea came about, we were hanging out in Mallorca one summer 2 years ago and doing some rides. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of where the idea to do something together materialized. And, I threw out the idea of Race Across America and was like, what do you think about this? And he's like, oh man, I don't know. Let's dive into the research a little bit more. But then really January, February of 2023 is when we kind of started getting a little bit more serious. I'm like, well, how would this work? How would we do it? What would we need? What would the team look like? And then we actually ended up doing a ski mountaineering race together in March of 2023 called the Aspen Power 4. And, we worked really well together on the athletic front. And, we were like, all right, I think we can make this thing work. So then we really started diving into the details, essentially March of 2023. And then we found a coach in April of 2023 and started getting on a training program probably around August, September of 2023. So we essentially only had about 10 months of actual cycling training. And then a lot of it of what we were doing was actually the logistics building and the logistics side of Race Across America. Mm-hmm. It's very, very heavily dependent on your crew, the team that you have helping you along the way. The bike fitness, you have to be able to ride your bike. You have to be able to, put out the watts, but you also need to be fed and rested and have a team driving you and safety and all these different things that are huge components of the race as well.
So, first of all, training. Where did it start, and how do you build up? Is it just long mile? Do you start out long miles every day? What are you doing? Kind of just a general breakdown of what you're doing.
Yeah, so it was a lot of zone two work, and our
Hmm.
coach had us kind of doing these zone two period workouts, or sorry, pyramid workouts, where we would kind of build up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours over the course of a week, riding, in one clip, and then we pyramid down from that. And that really kind of started that flow of fitness and moving fitness from my background, which is track racing, crits, time trials, so like high VO2 max and lactate threshold work, to doing a lot of like low and slow to get your mitochondria kind of like used to this sort of like this slow burn and this long duration.
Hmm.
And then slowly building that up through the year. So one of the things that, I'm time constrained. I have 3 kids. I have a job. Colin is as well. He's super busy with work and travel and things like that. So we had to really kind of like slot these workouts in, a couple hours here, a couple hours there. And we didn't really ride much more than like 14 hours a week, 12 to 14 hours
Really?
a week. It was just very, very purposeful training, and a lot of riding done on the trainer, on the Wahoo kicker and on Zwift and things like that as well.
That really surprised me. I thought you would have had a lot more miles a week.
Yeah. Yeah, most people do. Most people are like, oh man, you must be riding 30 hours a week. And really, no, you can get by because the way that we were doing the pairs race across America was, I was riding for 90 minutes, then Colin was riding for 90 minutes, and we were swapping every 90 minutes. So it was this sort of like cycle. You get your body used to sort of going at a certain pace. And the human body is amazing. You tweak it just a little bit and it can run forever on, a couple gels and some water, right?
Yeah. See, that just surprised me too. I was assuming that your intervals how you were trading back and forth, it would have been longer.
No, we opted for shorter intervals. It actually ends up being the fastest method, and this was something that our coach really helped us understand, and our some of our partners and our sponsors, really kind of helped us with some science around both aerodynamics, but also you know wattage output and fueling as well. You want to
Mhm.
optimize fueling and wattage output for certain periods of time, and it ended up being the most efficient was these shorter pulls and being able to keep our speed relatively high.
So you mentioned trying to sleep. Did you get to sleep much, or was there any kind? What's the longest sleep you had during this part, or how would you?
Well, yeah. So I would sleep when Colin was riding. I would be in the back of our van, leapfrogging ahead to the next checkpoint. Um, and I was only sleeping about 40 minutes, 40 to 60 minutes in a clip, not much more than that. I think the longest sleep I had was maybe an hour and 20 minutes. Colin took a long pull one time, maybe like a 2 hour pull, and I was able to really catch up on some sleep. That was like day 3 or 4, somewhere around there. So
Mhm.
yeah, but we were practicing this. We were
I
practicing
was going
these
to
types
ask,
of
you had to have
rotations.
gotten your body used to that prior to it, or I would think it would almost go into shock trying to do that for
Yeah,
three
we did a couple
multiple
of
days.
training camps. We did a training camp that was 4 weeks before the race, outside of Austin, Texas, and
Okay.
we were training in the heat. We were training, long hours, long days. That on the week to week training, we were 12 to 14 hours a week of riding, and then we had these training camps sort of slotted throughout the year where we would flex up and we would ride, 30 hours in a 5 day period type of thing. So during those periods of time, we would practice these rotations and this sleep type of thing. There was one day of training where I literally woke up in the morning, rode 90 minutes, was rested for 90 minutes, rode 90 minutes, rested 90 minutes. And I did that for an entire Saturday. So I was like running the
Mhm.
kids' soccer games. I was running the kids' basketball games on my off times. And then I would jump on the bike and go ride for 90 minutes and come back. And it was a pretty fun, like logistical puzzle to make all that training kind of fit in as well.
That is insane. So on the event, go to the event. What do you? Let me ask you this: what was the most challenging part of the race itself?
Yeah. So I'd say the most challenging part of the race was bringing the team together because it's a lot of people. It's 15 people total. So I was riding, Colin was riding, and then there was
Hmm.
13 support crew. So getting the team all situated with their schedules, whether it was their work and sleep schedule, our getting our PTs on a schedule as well. making sure that they were resting, making sure the crew was eating, making sure that everybody in the crew was having as much fun as they could during given this in this time. That was a big challenge, and that was a big heavy lift at the beginning, to make sure that everybody felt bought into this project to break a world record and to go. The idea was to go under 6 days. The current world record at the time was 6 days 11 hours, and we ended up finishing at 6 days 6 hours. So definitely way under the record, but a little bit behind our goal of the sub 6 days, and I'll get to that in a little bit later. But getting the whole crew involved in that process and getting people bought in, and these are all of our friends. These are people that we know, but a lot of them had never done some a week-long endurance event like this. And for the crew, it was a big endurance event as well. This is hard work, and so that was a big thing. That was probably the hardest to get everybody together, to come together. But when they did, it was absolute magic. We brought in a facilitator to facilitate some team building activities at the Texas training camp that helped us, with some practices to kind of ground each other, make sure that we all were sort of, staying calm, staying level headed, because, you get into sleep deprived state and, all kinds of different emotions can come out, and really being able to recognize those emotions and put them aside and say, hey, I know I feel sleepy or angry or tired right now, but, I'm going to concentrate on, the team and really leaning back on the team first for support and to really kind of like hold each other throughout this entire process.
What do you think, as far as on the ride itself, when you're riding, what was the most challenging thing as far as physically? Did you have a moment in there or a time where you're going, oh my heck?
Yeah. I had some some sleep deprivation mixed with some brain fog and just kind of not hallucinations, but definitely some blurry type vision in the middle of the night. Colin calls it the zombie hour between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. And it's a hard time to push your body. It's dark, you're seeing things, you have your car behind you, so you're lit from behind, but then you have all these shadows that are playing games on your eyes. And it definitely, there were 2 points where I just had to stop and shake my head and be like, all right, you got to get your head back in the game, start pedaling the bike, focus on one point on the road. Don't be looking around and making yourself dizzy, but just sort of center yourself. And that was really tough for me, because I'd never done anything past 36 hours of riding. So I was in unknown territory on day 3 and day 4, whereas Colin has done multiple day and week-long endeavors, and so he was a little bit more used to that from a mental standpoint. But it was challenging on the mental side. Physically, everything felt relatively good. I had some hand numbness day 5, but I think that's natural for when you're riding 1,800 miles in a week.
Yeah, I would think so. So I guess we don't have to look at your whole Strava, background to see what your best highest mileage week on Strava is.
Yeah, it was probably 700 before 700 in a week ever before Race Across America. And then, I ended up riding about 1,800 miles, and Colin ended up riding about 1,250 miles total. Just given my cycling background, I was riding a lot of the downhills. I was riding a lot longer shifts, and Colin was taking a lot of the uphills. He has a great sort of climbing prowess. He's, like I said, triathlete and a swimmer. His background, so he has a really, really good steady state kind of climbing piece. And then I can rip on the descents because I'm heavier and I have a lot more experience kind of ripping those downhills as well.
So I've just got to ask, did Colin or either of you guys steal any KOMs on the way?
We did. Yeah, we got some KOMs. We got a couple. Yeah, it's pretty funny. We got a couple in the middle of the race. We got a couple early on that I was pretty shocked about, and then we got a lot in the last 4 shifts. We amped up the speed and the watts per kilo to as much as we could muster for the last 4 shifts, which is about, call it 8 to 10 hours. And I snagged a couple of KOMs in Maryland and in New Jersey. So.
Now that's got to be humbling for the guy you took the KOM from. Yeah.
I think so,
Yeah,
especially
they took my
when he get
KOM, and he had just biked 1,800 miles himself in 6 days, but he still took my KOM.
yeah.
That's got to be.
A couple of those, yeah, 100%. And I'm sure he looked at that and was like, "What? The guy just did this is his 45th shift in a row, and now he's taking KOMs." One of the things I will say, for those KOMs, especially later on, is we were on a full TT setup for that, and
Mhm.
we were aero optimized. We went to the wind tunnel in Silverstone in the UK with our sponsor Lacole to work on our speed suits, to work on our position, and I gotta say, like, I felt so fast on those last four shifts. I felt fast for the entire thing, but especially those four shifts when you're tucked into the TT position,
Sure.
your helmet's integrated to your skin suit, and you know that you're just like slipping through the wind. I felt invincible, especially going zone two for almost the entire country, and then being able to, you know, ratchet it up a couple notches and ride at 320, 340 watts. Really, really felt good. So yeah, that also contributed to the chaos there as well. Because I've got the full disc, the tri spoke, the HJC helmet, the Lacole speed suit. It was the calf sleeves, the booties, everything. It was great.
Oh, that is fun. That just sounds like too much fun. The you know, you've talked about the training, the nutrition. That I mean, we always say that 80% of it is nutrition. Who dialed you in for that? Did you have one person specialized in your nutrition, or how did you dial in on that?
Yeah, we did. Gary Hand, our coach, who
Hmm.
was, I mean, I can't say enough amazing things about him. He did so much like spreadsheet work on our nutrition, looking at our training peaks. We did sweat analysis. We had the wind tunnel data from that we did with the call, all that stuff. He pulled it all together and formulated not only just our perfect pacing, but also like what are we supposed to be eating, how much to eat, things like that. And we did in October of 2023, we did the first 1,000 miles of the course, just as recon. And Gary was with us on that. So he took a lot of notes on what we were eating, how we were feeling, and then optimized it throughout the entire, next 6 months, 8 months until leading up to the race. And that was huge. So we determined that, I was going to be on about 100 to 110 grams of carbohydrates per hour. Immediately after I got off the bike, I was going to be, I sweat a lot. So immediately when I got off the bike, I was going to, drink a 500 mils of water with some LMNT in it, and then take on like a 400 calorie burrito that we were making in the RV, that the crew was making in the RV: rice, beans, avocado in a tortilla. Then I'd go straight to sleep, and I'd wake up and I'd eat another one of those burritos, and I'd have another gel, hydration, get back on the bike, and then usually going through like 3 to 5 gels on the bike, and then one drink mix. So, and that was just constant. Like, our team made sure we had this food available to us at all times, which was great. And then to settle our stomachs and make sure that we were getting like vitamins and minerals and nutrients, we were drinking a AG1, which is like a greens drink with a ton of vitamins and minerals in it. We were
Hmm.
doing that every 10 hours as well to settle our stomachs, make sure we got vitamins and minerals, because we weren't taking any supplements outside of the AG1, and we were taking a mitochondrial cellular support supplement called MitoQ as well, but nothing else. So we weren't taking a multivitamin or anything like that. So we needed those nutrients, especially since we were like sweating so much and going through so much energy. We were burning 12,000 kilojoules a day, and we were probably only taking in about 7,000 calories overall. So it was a big calorie deficit. But since we were topped up on carbohydrates and topped up on some solid food in the stomach, we felt fine. Like, our stomach, our GI systems felt great. That was something that all of us as a crew were worried about. Like, how is our stomachs going to handle the heat, all these gels? I mean, we went through like 350 gels, and you never know what's going to happen there, because nobody in their right mind would ever eat 350 gels. So it was like,
Yeah.
who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, it was dialed. Gary Hand, unbelievable spreadsheet nutrition guy, and then we were tracking it every time too. Every time we get off the bike into the car, would be like, what did you eat? And we'd check stuff off. And there was a whole like log book of like everything that we ate on the bike, off the bike, how much we were sleeping, how much we peed, when we went to the bathroom. Like it was a whole like checklist logbook of everything. And that's all the operational logistical things that that come into play with Race Across America that you don't have to worry about if you're doing a 6-hour or 12-hour gravel race or a road race. It's like you can get by on that kind of stuff. But when it starts to be day 3, day 4, day 5, if you don't know, like if you or you're not tracking, making sure that I'm eating or Colin's eating, it can really backfire.
That's pretty amazing. It shows what you said earlier about when you got close to the East Coast, that you guys are absolutely amped up and hitting KMs, not surviving.
Exactly. And that was on purpose. It was like maintain across the entire country. And then like, if you still feel good, or when you still feel good because you've been been sleeping and you've been eating this whole time, then you can like, pop the needle and see like how much harder you can push into the red for those last 4 shifts each.
Yep. Was that tough? For instance, like at the beginning when you're feeling really good, to not go harder than you should?
Very, very hard. Yeah.
I know for me, that's horrible. I hate zone 2. I just hate it. I hate it. Like everybody that races, they just don't want to be in it. It makes no sense until you experience it.
It feels so boring. It feels so boring.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of that. I mean, just like you, as a longtime bike racer, you want to get out and you want to like push it, right? And especially coming off a taper, right? So we had the training camp 4 weeks before. Gary put us on this great taper program. So you come off a taper. I come from Denver. We're in Oceanside, California. Like sea level feels amazing, and all you want to do is be like, all right, let's amp this up a little bit. So very hard for me to do. In fact, my first, not my first shift, my second shift, we upload the data. It goes to Training Peaks. Gary looks at it in Training Peaks in the RV, and he immediately gets on the radio and he's like, tells my band captain, he says, tell Lucas that he needs to like bring it down a notch. Like he's like, you went too fast, and this is only 90 minutes, right? This is my second shift, and he's like, you're going about 20% harder than you need to. He's like, bring it down. And so I got on the bike the next time with those instructions, and I brought my intensity factor down, brought my watts down, and made sure I stayed steady. But yeah, super hard for me to do that. Not hard for Colin. Colin is an absolute like metronome when it comes to, you tell him to ride at 3.2 watts per kilo at 0.61 intensity factor, and he will hit the number on the head every single time. Like I want to say he had like a 90% like on the money power and intensity factor ratio for this race. That goes back to his swimming background. He has such an ability to like feel what his body is doing and hit it on the number.
What was zone 2 for you? Just out of curiosity.
265 watts. Yeah.
It's not the same for me.
Well, I'm 180 pounds as well. So it's a factor. It's a factor of weight. But yeah, high zone 2.
Age.
And age. 100%. Yeah. So it was tough though. And the other thing, we got hit with some big temperature swings in that first 24 hours, which also did help us kind of rein it in. I mean, it was 115 degrees for almost 10 hours. Once we got to Borrego Springs over the coastal range of California, we were in dangerously high temperatures for almost an entire half day.
How many other pairs teams were going when you guys launched, when it started?
There were 5 2-person teams at the start, and I want to say 5 or 6 4-person teams, and maybe 4 8-person teams.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good amount of teams that launched off on the Saturday. All the solo riders left on the previous Tuesday because they want everybody to kind of finish on the same weekend. That June 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Sure. So we caught a lot of solo riders in Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, some of those states as we were making our way east. But we also were way out ahead of a lot of the different teams, the 2-person teams, the 4-person teams, and the 8-person teams. We finished 2 hours behind the winning 4-person team, and I want to say like 10 hours, or maybe 10 hours behind the winning 8-person team.
Wow. You guys are moving. That's all I got to say. So where did you finish? Was it Annapolis? Was that right?
So it was Atlantic City this year.
Oh, it's
They
Atlantic City.
moved
Okay.
it. Yeah, the last 20 years they finished in Annapolis, and there was a bunch of construction at the Annapolis Pier this year, so they moved it back to Atlantic City, where they hadn't finished in Atlantic City since 2000. I want to say 2005, 2006, I believe.
Mhm.
And so yeah, Atlantic City. So we crossed the Delaware Bridge. That was actually a segment where we actually had to get in the car because bikes aren't allowed over the Delaware Bridge. So we had to get in the car, and they drove us over the
And you
bridge.
turned off your
And then
Strava. You paused your Strava for that, right?
we did. We paused the
Okay.
Strava. Don't worry. Yeah, Strava integrity was fully intact. And and then literally at the other side of the bridge, there's like, imagine like a big like sort of roundabout with a gas station. That's where the race was like, oh, you have to restart from here. So like we restarted from that gas station and then went all the way to Atlantic City, through southern New Jersey. We have basically New Jersey's farmland type stuff.
Mhm.
So we kind of closer to Atlantic City. Then it was just a lot of traffic stuff there.
So where exactly did it actually finish at the ocean?
So we finished. There's actually a checkpoint that's about a mile and a half from the finishing checkpoint is about a mile and a half from the celebratory finish line. So the picture that from the Strava, Colin and I, like raise your hands, that's at the celebratory finish line at the beach on the boardwalk. The actual time station, because they don't want people like racing into the city and into the boardwalk and stuff. There's a time station that you call in, that you radio in, that's about a mile and a half from the celebratory finish line, where that actually marks the finish of where you are.
Who finished? Who's on a bike?
I was taking the last leg all the way until about 3 miles to go, and then Colin joined me on the road, and we finished together.
Oh, cool. What was that feeling? Okay, what was that feeling like when you actually crossed it? You're done. You beat it by, I'm sure you had time checks by the minute in the final leg, but what was that like? What was that feeling?
It was a lot of emotion of just elation and honestly just like love for the crew and love for the team. Like there was just like a collective, oh my God, we did this together, right? Even though Colin and I were the ones riding the bikes, that's not possible without the crew. So we had a moment where, we called it into the time station. My van was behind me and Colin as we rode into the time station, but then our entire team was there with the other van, the RV, and everybody's standing outside, like cheering and like, ringing cowbells and we just had a big group hug. And, we shouted that we are world record holders, because it was a collective we that did it. So a lot of love, a lot of elation, and quite frankly, a lot of like relief that, holy crap, we did it. Like, we put all these things together. We put this plan together. We didn't really know if it was going to work or not, but it was, we were confident in our preparation, and then we just, let our team like do what they do best. And we came out on top, right? It was, just getting emotional just thinking about it right now. Just a lot of planning and a lot of camaraderie. It's like we all came together on this project to do the best we possibly could in every capacity, right? Whether somebody was driving, making food, massage, PT, riding, keeping riders safe, like all these things. And everybody kind of had that collective, like, elation and love for each other.
How much did you break the world record by? What was the previous record?
Previous record was 6 days, 11 hours. So
5 hours.
I think the easiest way to think about it is when we finished, the people that the team that had the previous record, which was 2 French guys that did it in 2019, they would have been about 110 to 120 miles behind us. And as you mentioned, it was our project. We called our project Sub Six because we were confident that we could go 6 days or less, which we were on track for until we got to eastern Colorado. In fact, we were ahead of the Sub Six pace by about a couple hours until we got to eastern Colorado. We were had right on pace like throughout California. We made up a bunch of time in Arizona and Utah, and then we got hit with some serious crosswinds, essentially from the middle of eastern Colorado all the way through Kansas. So almost
What a shock.
30.
There's wind out. What a shock.
I know. Well, traditionally,
All there
the
is
wind actually.
That's why there are no trees. A tree can't grow in that.
But Gary, the funny thing is that it's traditionally, and we did the analysis on the weather. Traditionally, 90% of the time, so like 9 years out of 10, through Kansas in that week of June, you end up with a cross tailwind at about 15 miles an hour. That's like the prevailing wind is a cross tail for 15, about 15 miles an hour, which would have been fantastic. We would have definitely gone sub 6 had that been the case. We ended up getting hit with 25 to 30 mile an hour straight crosswinds. So that eliminated us using our TT bikes. That eliminated us using our disc wheel because we were just getting blown, even on our road bikes, we were just getting blown sideways like this, like constantly. And that just ate up a bunch of the time. And then we, essentially that section, which was, I want to give it maybe 600 to 700 miles. We dropped the pace that had for sub 6 had to drop. And then we were on pace once we got to Missouri through the finish line. We were on pace for what we would have done for sub 6. But that middle section, really kind of hurt us. But once again, you can't control the weather.
No.
And all things considered, the amount of variables that go into Race Across America it's in the thousands of things that you need to try to control, need to try to minimize, need to try to mitigate. And, we didn't get one puncture on our road bikes or on our bikes at all. We had a puncture of our van. Our van got a rear flat, but we were able to fix that at a tire shop. No problem.
You didn't.
But we didn't. Yeah. Nobody got sick. Nobody crashed. Nobody bonked. There's a million things that can go wrong with Race Across America. It really is the toughest race in the world because of so many variables, and the weather is one of them. We didn't get caught in any thunderstorms. We barely got rained on. The one thing that we got hit with was a crazy crosswind, and if all things considered, I'll take that over somebody crashing or bonking or getting a stomach bug or something along those lines too.
I take it when you finished, your first thought was, "Hey, I'd like another goo." What was your first meal?
I mean, you joke about that, but I did have a couple of gels just to make sure I got my sugar in for that hour. The first meal was the hotel that we stayed at in New Jersey, just outside of Atlantic City. They ordered us some Domino's pizzas and some beers, and we sat around a conference room table at the hotel and just laughed until midnight, 12:30, because none of us were tired. We were just all we were tired, but we weren't.
I'm sure you were tired. A little bit of
we were tired, but we were full of energy. Yeah. And so we ate a bunch of Domino's pizza and we drank some beers and we shared some stories and some laughs, and then we woke up the next morning and had breakfast and then cleaned out the vans and cleaned out the RVs and started making plans for, we ended up going to the beach and had a beach day in the afternoon. And then, on Sunday, kind of everybody had flights and we were, working through logistics there. But yeah, we had a nice time, celebratory time. We had a nice dinner on Saturday night at the hotel, just the team, and really celebrated each other's wins and celebrated each other's efforts on this amazing world record.
So next year?
Yeah, a Race Across America is happening next year, and I'm definitely going to be watching it. We actually, one of our crew members, Alvaro, was so inspired by Race Across America that he has signed up for Race Across America solo next year. So I know a lot of us are going to be trying to support him in any way we can, whether it's being a part of his crew or helping him from afar. And so I'm going to be cheering Alvaro on for next year. And for me, nothing on the horizon for next year, except for, just enjoying the bike and going out on some group rides and enjoying some good coffee rides and things like that with people here in Denver.
Or Castle Rock.
Or Castle Rock. Yeah, I'm coming down to ride with you. I'm coming to ride with you. You know it.
Yeah, but we're not going to be doing 90-minute polls like you were talking about doing for 6 days. No.
Casual.
Yeah, love to. Well, man, it has been a great time having you on today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, super fun. And I appreciate the questions and all the interest. And, doing ultra endurance events is, it's a full contact team sport. And,
I knew there was a lot of support. I didn't realize how in depth it was until this conversation. So
and that was one thing that we discovered really kind of early on was like, oh my gosh, because I was able to talk to a couple of RAM veterans who really keyed me in on that and let me know that like it's all about the crew. Like, yes, you have to have the fitness. Yes, you have to have the bikes and the wheels, and like those are all table stakes. Those are all non-negotiables. But when it comes to your crew, that's going to make or break a record. That's going to make or break your you even finishing actually. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to dive into, and once again, a part of the cycling community that I hadn't had a lot of exposure to before this last year, and I have the utmost respect and love for anybody who takes on these ultra endurance challenges, because it is so much more than just riding the bike. It's a lot that goes into it.
So obviously, you've already told me you're not going to do the race across America next year. Do you have anything big on the horizon for you?
Not right now. Nope. Just concentrating on doing sports with my kids, and I've been coaching my daughter at cross country running and things like that. So nothing on the horizon just yet. But these things come in like 3 to 5 year cycles. So 5 years before this, or 6 years ago, I won 3 Masters World Championships on the velodrome. So there's some secular nature to the way I kind of approach these big lofty goals. So maybe in a couple of years something will be on the horizon.
Well, that's great. Well, Lucas, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it, and it's just been great chatting with you.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate you so much, and I look forward to getting out and riding with you soon.
Yep, I'd love it. Talk to you soon, and maybe we'll have you back on the show again.
Sounds good. Happy to do it.
Thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gary.